Well guys, welcome to my channel, welcome to my stream, welcome to another video series. This is part 1, working on this guy right there. That's our 1967 Shelby GT350. It's a model kit made by AMT and it's a 125 scale, so I will just get that intro started and we'll get right into it, shall we? We're going to get started here. Now I have already opened the box and I've taken all the pieces out of the plastic. You might see some little bits on my desk here as I'm getting started on what I'm going to do with this little guy. As you guys, for you guys who've watched me for a little while, when it comes to building a car model, I can't really just build it out of the box. I've got to do some custom stuff to it. It's just the way I am. I can't build a car out of the box. I've got to customize it somehow. And well, this is no exception. Although this is not going to be a crazy transformation or anything like that, I just want to do something extra to it. Anyway, let's go through the box here. Besides your main two, here's the body. This particular one's molded in black. I didn't even know that there was different options. Apparently, some of these kits, this particular Shelby kit by AMT. Some of them are molded in black and some of them are actually molded in white. I have no idea. Mine, you see in the picture there, it says there's a little round circle that says molded in black. But on my actual box, it doesn't say anything. It's got nothing. Let me get that on camera. It's got nothing there by my thumb. There's nothing. There's no sticker on the plastic. There's nothing. There's nothing indicating that it was actually molded in black. So it was a surprise when I opened the box. It was like, wow. 14-year-old me is thinking, that's freaking awesome. I don't have to paint this. I get a nice shiny black car and don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that's 14-year-old me where I really hated painting bodies. But many years go by and yeah, I'm going to paint this. And I've got to prime it in a nice bright color. I might prime it in white actually to be able to cover the black nicely. Depending on what color I'm actually going to come up with. I'm not quite 100% sure what color this body's going to be in the end. But anyway, so there's that, and then we've got our bottom chassis, which includes our interior with our textured, you get ASMR there, that's the carpet texture on the bottom there. So that's kind of neat that they've done that. But yeah, there's that. We got decals. I already pulled them out. We got our Shelby stripes, of course, because it's a Shelby. They get two colors. You get silver and white, depending on what you want to do. We got two chrome sprues. One's got some engine valve covers, bumpers, and wheels on there, and this one's got the headlights and exhaust tips. Excuse me. We've got a shifter and disc brakes, chrome disc brakes, and your big round air cleaner. All right. Next, there's all our interior stuff. Rear seat, dashboard, front bucket seats, our hood, steering column, license plates, steering wheel, and I don't know what that little round thing is. I don't know. We'll find out eventually. Next, we have one sprue just all by itself as our interior door panels. Nice and simple. Next we have a sprue with exhaust parts and the window vents, the rear window vent and our side vents that go on the sides of the car. Dual exhaust going into a single muffler. Looks like a crossbar. I'm guessing that's a cross brace that goes underneath the chassis somewhere. Okay. Next we have our engine parts, rear end, leaf springs, wheels, strut tower braces that go under the hood, battery, low carburetor, yeah, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave that there because engine is going to be the first thing we do. And one final sprue. We have our front and rear bumpers, our trunk lid, which is unique. I'm surprised they actually have the trunk separate. Firewall. This is probably a rear deck lid. I'm not sure what this piece is. We got our front steering support radiator and the radiator bracket support, shock springs, steering tie rod, yeah, rear shocks. I'm guessing those are the rear shock absorbers. Yeah, and that's it. And that's what we get. Of course, we get tires. We get 4 tires, a little baggy. Whether I actually use these tires or not, I'm not sure. I think I'm actually going to be borrowing tires from another kit to put a little bit more meat on the ground. My vision for this is, now, these Shelby 350s apparently came with a Hypo 289 engine, small block Ford engine, of course. But I figured that's Shelby's worth. It's worthy of having something a little more power in it. I'm going to go with a 427 with dual carbs, dual quads. Yeah. So what I actually had in my stash of stuff is these old Ford 427 V8 parts. It contains parts for one engine. And there's your instructions on how to put it all together. And you get an option of having dual 4s on there, dual 4-barrel carburetors, or you can have it blown with a blower on it. For this particular build, I didn't want to cut the hole in the hood. I've you know, what is it, the past 3 or 4 cars that I've built, all of them have blowers sticking out of the hood. This one I want to go different, a little bit different. So anyway, it comes with just 100% chrome sprue. And so I started building the engine, and I have it sitting right here. Here's our engine. I painted the block blue, Ford blue. Actually, I should tell you which paint. This actually Pro Scale paints. It's actually Ford engine blue, and yeah, it represents that Ford engine blue color really good. I do like the Pro Scale paints. I will say that. I've only used them a couple of times. You guys have seen me paint them before. They got some really nice colors. You go on their website, they've got a plethora of special, unique car colors of you can imagine. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, so that's our 427 that I am going to be putting in there. But for the sake of completeness, I am going to be building the kit engine, and you guys are going to watch me do that today. The reason for it, if I'm, you might ask me, why are you building the 289 if you're really going to be only using the 427? I'll tell you in a sec. It's because I want to see exactly all the mounting points that are supposed to be on the frame, and exactly where the engine is supposed to mount, to minimize my problems that are probably going to arise by putting in an engine that they never designed to put in there. Okay, because yes, I could just take this and figure out and go, yeah, there it goes, that's where it sits, but that's not really where it needs to. And then I think, oh, okay, well, that's kind of sitting in there, but it's blocking here. Let's cut that off, and then realize, hey, I didn't have to cut that off, because it's actually going to sit in a different, it's going to sit forward or back or whatever. So that's the reason for that. So let me change the camera. I'll open the instructions wherever I put them here. Instruction pages. It's not a book, because it's just a great big fold out instruction manual. So let me do this, and I'll change the camera so that at least if you do want to build this by the kit, you get to watch me and see exactly how it's done, and you get to learn just like me. Alright, let me change the camera here. Alright, so first off, I'm going to need a bunch of parts. So, looks like our oil pan engine block heads, numbers, where have they got these? Got these letters U. So number 2, 4, is it 2 or 4? What's the number? I don't know. On here it's number 1. The engine block is number 1. So there we go, it's number 1. And they got a big star here, number 1. That's the star. The engine is the star of the show. There's our engine block. That's something I've noticed that they're doing more these days than they used to when I was a kid. When I was a kid, they never used to mold in the actual pistons in the engine blocks. That was something they never bothered doing when I was a kid. But they do that now, and that is a nice detail that, you know, would have been really cool as a kid, but yeah, they just didn't do that back then, back in the 80s and early 90s. They didn't really bother doing that. We got our bell housing. It's going to go on there. That's this guy here. Where are our cylinder heads? Right here. These two guys are the cylinder heads. Okay, it's these two. And we got our water pump. Or at least the front engine front cover, which probably includes the water pump molded on it. Okay, let's get these put together. Okay, it's funny that it's hollow under here. But a hollow engine block. And funny enough, you know, it's very rare to see an oil pan that has the sump at the front. But that was something that Ford had to do quite often. The way they mounted their engines was, and where the steering was in the car, and the front cross members and stuff, quite often they had to have a front sump oil pan. Which, you know, especially in those days when a lot of cars were being drag raced and stuff like that, that wasn't a really good thing to do, was have a front sump pan, because when you take off from a dead stop, all your oil gets flung to the back of the pan, and you can actually oil starve your engine. There we go. There's our... This is all hard to see because it's molded in black, so I apologize for that. Again, I didn't know this kit was going to be molded in black when I bought it. Just going to make sure my nubs are clean under my heads here. Even though I'm not using this engine, you never know. So I like to build these, and with the assumption that maybe I am going to use it sometime in the future, right? So even though I'm not using it in this kit, I still want to do a good job on assembling it, because I don't want to do myself a disservice later on if I do decide, hey, I'm going to use this particular engine in a different kit. Now it looks like there's a little lip on the side of this head, so it looks like it's just going to rest on there, and that's how we're going to line it up, like that. There we go. So I'll just do a little bead across here, and then rest this one on there. Just like that. There we go. And then we have our bell housing going on the back, and we want the starter going on this side. But actually it lines up. We got a kind of a funky little angular pattern in here that we're supposed to line up. So the nice thing about these kinds of engines is you can decide later on, do you want this to be an aluminum block, or do you want it to be cast iron? course, aluminum. You just paint it aluminum. Because nobody takes an aluminum block and paints it blue, or, you know, if it's a Chevy, the Chevy orange, or kind of thing. Nobody paints their aluminum blocks. They just leave them bare aluminum. Okay, so with that done, we're going to grab our intake manifold. And that should be on this tree too, also right there. There we go. And we got our fan belt that's going to go on the front here. I'm not going to put the fan on it though, because the fan I'm going to put on the engine I actually put in this car. And I need number 15 as an alternator. That's this guy here. Okay. So let's make sure our intake is nice and clean and going to fit. Very typical looking 289 intake. 289s and 302s are basically the same engine back in those days. I believe the only difference was just the bore and the stroke, and otherwise were essentially the same engine. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they were. I think they were the same motor other than bore and stroke. I didn't really get any contact on that, so it must be contacting down inside here. There we go. Okay, intake's on. Now, get our fan belt situated like this. Now we've got a nice little peg sticking out here for the alternator, but I also got some flashing on there. Alternator has got a nice big hole. Unfortunately, you know, I understand why guys want to get 3D printed details like alternators. There isn't even an alternator fan molded on the front of this. This is solid, flat, no detail at all on the front of this alternator. And it just goes onto this like that. And even the hole is like way bigger than the pin that it's going into. So, yeah. That's just kind of the way it is. I can understand why people want better detail than what the kit parts give. So yeah, you know it's an alternator, but it doesn't really look like one. I'm going to let that sit for a moment. We'll let that sit and just kind of cure for a minute while I get a couple extra parts. We'll get our valve covers. Looks like, oh, we got an engine coil. That's rare. That's a rare piece that they included here. It's the actual engine coil, ignition coil. You don't see that too much. Let's see, valve covers. Are these chrome? Those are the chrome ones? Where's my chrome stuff? Yeah, we actually have two sets. We have just plain ones, and then we've got ones that actually say Cobra, powered by Ford. I'm going to do just the plain ones. Actually, no. You know what? I'm going to do the powered by Ford. No, I'm not. Changing my mind while I change my mind. The reason is I have a 3D printed Ford 302 that I would like to save something like valve covers for just such a thing. Now, because these are chrome, if you want these, if you just want to use regular hobby glue like I'm using, you have to strip the chrome off of this, otherwise it will not glue. Now, if you're one of those guys who likes to use CA glue on everything and just use crazy glue, then you don't have to worry about that, because crazy glue glues everything. But I'm using regular glue, so I'm going to scrape the chrome off of this. Just like this, so that the glue can do its magic and actually stick the plastic together. But that means you've got to do a little bit of work on this. Scrape that off. Now, of course, you guys who like to strip all the chrome off all your chrome parts because you think kit chrome looks like a toy, then again, you don't have to worry about this, because you're going to throw it in a bucket of super clean or oven off or whatever you're going to use to strip all your chrome. I'm still kind of in the process of searching for a good chrome paint that is durable and can be handled. Yes, I've actually spent, I think I've spent too much money on chrome paint. Personally, I've spent too much money, wasted money on chrome paint, trying to find the perfect chrome paint. Valve covers go on top of our heads like this. They do only go on one way. Ford small block valve covers, or let me rephrase, because Ford makes a 351 is still considered a small block, the 351 Windsor. But the Ford 289s and 302s, their valve covers are uniquely shaped. They're not just rectangular. And so they only go on one way. And I'm trying to get this one on correct, but it doesn't want to sit properly. This one doesn't want to sit. Oh, it doesn't want to sit because I got some flashing right there. Right there. That's why it won't sit. There. Get that flashing off there. And then it should fit. Technically, this valve cover should go on this side, so I'm going to swap them. The one with the oil filler cap should go towards the front of the engine. There we go. Another strip right there. Okay. There we go. Valve covers are on. Just like that. Okay, that's done. I'm not going to do the carburetor or the air cleaner. There's really no point. I do have some 3D printed carbs that are much better detailed than what comes in the kit here. But yeah, so let's look at our starter. That's number 4, and our coil is number 12. 4 and 12. Sorry, that's number 13. The starter is number 13. This guy here. And then our coil number 12. And I just dropped it on the floor. That's going to be fun to find. Hopefully I can see it. Yay, keyboard. There we go. Okay, so starter obviously goes at the bottom, back here, in where the starter is supposed to go. Goes right down in here. It's one of the few starters that looks like it's going to fit where it belongs, but I take that back. The hole that they have for it here is square, peg that they've got is round. And it's not that great. That's funny. Let's put a round peg in a square hole. So we just have to do a little bit of chopping on this one. Turn this peg, make this peg a little more square like it's supposed to be. I could just chop the peg completely off, but you know, if I can avoid that, why not? Sorry, I just realized I'm kind of doing this off camera. Okay, so that peg is kind of square now. Yeah, there we go. Now she fits. Nice. Okay. Glue on there. There we go. Starter's in. Now what's unfortunate, you know, the starter has this great big gaping open hole on the side of it. But this is the direction it's supposed to go. Or is it? No. I just did a big mistake and I put the starter in backwards. How do you put a starter in backwards? Well, it takes talent. It takes talent, but you can put the starter in backwards. And I did that. I did that, guys. So, this is the direction it's supposed to go. Okay, I'm going to show you on the camera here. There's our starter. Okay, now this side goes towards the front of the engine, this side goes towards the back. Okay, so pay attention, don't be like me, don't do it backwards. Put this side towards the back, towards the transmission side. This side goes towards the front, which is where the fan belt goes. Okay, so that's how you mount it. Just like that. Okay, just like that. That's how it goes. Okay. There. Now we have our little coil has this little tab. That little tab right there is supposed to be going into this little notch right here on this little guy right here, right at the top. It's a little bit tricky getting him into his little home, but I got him. Okay, so if you look there, that's where the coil goes on the front. Okay, the front at the top there. Okay, just like that. All right. There we go. Okay. And that's going to be it for that. Like I said, I'm just let that sit my fan belt off to the side for now. And we'll go down to the next step. Transmission halves. And it looks like we actually got transmission linkage. That's another rare thing. They're actually putting the linkage separate. Here's a good example of what you normally get. Something like this, where you get like, this is a big block. That's also a 427, I think. I don't know what engine this is, but it's got an automatic transmission, and so you got nothing on here at all. No nothing. This is another. This is a Chevy engine, I think it's a Chevy 427 actually. There's what they call the transmission linkage on this one. Right there, you just get these big molded rod looking things, but they're huge looking. It's not a lot of detail. You can tell, okay, they tried to get them in there, so you've got something to go with, but it's not that great, right? This one, we're actually going to have rods, separate little rods that go on the side of the transmission. I believe this is a top loader 4-speed. This is kind of neat that we actually have separate linkage to install on the side of the tranny. That is rare indeed. Anyway, we'll see how our transmission halves line up here. See whether I need to get rid of our guide pins. I find a lot of times with engine halves and with transmission halves, you got the guide pins in their holes, but then when you get them lined up, they don't line up on the, your detail doesn't line up because the pin is not letting it line everything up properly. And that's kind of the case here, where I got this front little wedge here, the two halves, they're supposed to go like this, but they're lining up like this because of the pins. The guide pins are forcing it to be like this as they line up, and that sucks. So I'm going to trim off our guide pins here like that, make sure they're flush, and that way I can manually line up our transmission halves so that everything lines up very nicely on the outside. So let's do that, put some glue on there and get these lined up. It's just the way it is sometimes. Okay, let's get some glue on the bottom here. Now the 427 engine that I'm putting in this thing, it came with a transmission also. Of course that transmission is chrome, and that's fine. Having a chrome tranny is kind of neat, but not really necessary. I will show you the comparison between the two once this is glued up. Now this is something that's unique, is there's a mount right here. This obviously has a mount on it where it's supposed to mount to the frame of the car somewhere, that's molded in there, that my other transmission does not have. Here's my other transmission. This is the one I was planning on using, and you can see I've used some solder. Rested in my hand here. Get close to the camera there if you can. I used some solder and made my own transmission shifting rods. I drilled a couple of holes where they're supposed to go in, and just used solder to do that. It's kind of hard to see because it's so shiny, but you kind of get it there, get an idea of my shift linkage that I've done on that. Right? Yeah. But since this one has them anyway, I just might use this one. So which way is this supposed to go now? It goes like this, with the linkage on this side, and this goes in there. There. linkage is kind of sticking out a little bit further than I think it's supposed to. At least on the front part of it. The rear is fine, I think. Get it in the hole. Get in your hole. I think it's supposed to sit a little more flush. It seems to really be sticking far off of it. I want to trim like 0.5 millimeter off of them, off these pins. Just get them to suck up a little bit tighter against it. That's better. That looks more better. More better. Definitely looks more better. Put some glue on them so they'll stay. There we go. There's our new home. So there's our transmission there with the linkage on it. Just like that. And that's the black version. You can see, we get that in the light. You can see the linkage on there. It looks pretty cool, and it's actually better detailed than my chrome one. So I might actually use this transmission. I just might keep this one because the dimensions are pretty much the same between the one that came with the 427 and the one that comes in the kit. They're pretty much the same thing, right? Very close. 427 one is maybe 1 millimeter or 2 longer. But I mean, who cares really? I like the detail on this one. That one looks cool. Okay. We have our distributor that's supposed to go in there. But I don't really want to put the distributor. I mean, it doesn't matter. If I decide to use this engine, I will not be using this distributor that comes in the kit. I have these 3D printed distributors that are pre-drilled, and they have the vacuum advance on them. They're pre-drilled so I can put wires in them, and they are fantastic. These 3D printed ones. I got these from Iceman Productions. Is it Iceman Productions? Iceman Collections, sorry. Check them out. Iceman Collections makes all kinds of 3D printed stuff, and they're really awesome. Yeah. If you want to take your models to that extra step in detail, and I do recommend stuff like that. And that's, you can get things like tires. These are Mickey Thompson Sportsman street tires, things like that. Anything you want. I got MSD boxes, ignition boxes. I got distributors. There's my distributors right there. I got switch panels. You can get carburetors. You can get anything you want, really. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, I could put the tranny on there, but I don't want to because I actually want to use this tranny. Now, the funny thing is the hole is totally different, but that's not a big issue. That's not an issue at all. Engine dimensions look, well, I mean, yeah, the 302 is or the 289 is definitely a smaller engine. Yeah. Lengthwise, they're pretty close. They're pretty close to the same length, so that I don't think I'm going to have an issue. But what I want to do is check how this guy's supposed to mount. See, he's got a little slot right here in the side of the block, and right here. Okay, there and there, and that's where we're going to have those two mounts line up right there on each side of the block. That tells me that's where my bigger engine is supposed to go, right? Now, of course, my bigger engine doesn't have these specific little notches there, but, and especially on this side, I have the oil filter. That's going to be a challenge, which means I might have to put the engine a little further forward like this or modify that engine mount. So if I put the engine forward like this, I'll have to trim off this tab, whatever that is, because the oil filter is right there in the way. But if I move the engine forward like that, I run into other problems, like maybe the radiator won't fit when I put the fan on, right? Now I can get away with not having a fan. I can say, hey, it's an electric water pump, and there's no fan, right? But even doing that, that's where I'm going to run into some problems, because putting this here, my transmission mounts right there, and so I want to have the back of the new engine in the same spot, so I don't have to alter the length of my drive shaft. I want to have it there, which means I want to have it in the same spot, which means this is totally in the way of the oil filter. Now I could cut this off and just mount it back a little further. I could just do that. Trim this off and just glue it on. Just a little further back. But it looks like I've got a channel here. I've got a little slot here and here. I'm guessing my suspension is supposed to mount in right there. And so just simply moving this engine mount back might be an issue. These are the things that you wind up having to try and figure out when you're doing this custom stuff. So I'm going to look ahead here. What goes in that spot? Right here. Number 20 is our front suspension piece. It's supposed to mount in there. I'm going to get that number 20 off of there. Let's find that piece. Number 20. That's this guy here. So he's supposed to go like this, mount in there, something like this. This maybe. It's like a little bit of flash on these pieces. A little bit of flash on these. AMT kits seem to have quite a bit of flash on them. I will say that compared to Revell. I mean, not that Revell's perfect in any regard. The only kits I notice that don't really have any flash ever is like Tamiya kits. But I mean, we all know Tamiya is the gold standard of model kits, right? Tamiya is the standard that everyone tries to live up to. Okay, so I think this goes like this. Or is that? Nope, that's the wrong way. Right here. Yeah, if I can hold on to it. Okay, I think I figured it out. These little blocks, this one here and here, are the parts that go into those little notches. This, just like so. But I think I can still get away with, put that on, put those in there, like that. This is not exactly a precise fit. Like, it's not really good fit. But I think I can still get away with moving the engine mount back as long as I keep it underneath where that is. I think I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to trim that engine mount off right now. Here's the big challenge, guys. Here we go. Okay, now with that off, do a little test here. Now that fits right in there nicely, exactly where I need it. The only problem is my alternator hits on that little tab there and doesn't let the engine sit down low enough. It kind of does if I get the engine off to one side a little bit. But I don't think that tab is anything super important. So I think I can get away with getting rid of that tab. Whoops. I think I can just shave that tab off like this. I'll just shave it down a little bit so it's still there. But now the alternator doesn't hit it. If anything, it's the oil pan that's hitting, or the oil filter is hitting this one. That's okay. We'll just trim that one down a little bit too. We'll make it straight so that it looks like it's supposed to be like that. There we go. Now they're basically the same. And there we go. That's pretty much exactly where it's supposed to go, and that's a good fit, just like that. Just like so. So what I will do is I want to try and maybe tape the engine in and have it just taped there and sitting there like that. Sitting right where it needs to be. If I can tape it like that, then I can actually, I'll glue the mount to the frame and just let it rest onto the engine where it needs to be, and I can let it sit and be like that. And that's the plan. Okay, that's my plan. That's the plan. Okay, so let's see if I can tape my engine in. I want to have it just like that. I want it in the middle, right there. So, put some tape on it there. We'll refine it in a minute. Pretty close. Okay. Now let's turn it around. Something like that. And we'll go over the front of it. This. Doing this without glue, of course, is tricky. And of course, it wants to slide all the way down, and I don't want it slid all the way down. I want it resting up so it can be in the middle. There's where I want it. Let's put another piece over here and push it up just a little bit. I think that's pretty much exactly where I need it. So I'm going to take this piece, and how are we going to go? I believe it was facing this way. No, it was facing that way. Yeah, just like that. Okay. So we're going to put this piece in right down here. I think I just came up with another problem. I just noticed another problem. The oil pan is going to interfere. I think I might have to do something with this bar, or I'm not sure what bar that crossbar might interfere with the oil pan, or this bar, the anti-sway bar on the front actually. Might have to move the engine back further. It seems to be the distance between these two bars is really tight, so that engine is got to be really in a specific spot in order to fit. So my tape just gave away. That engine is going to be a real tight squeeze in here. Let's get the tape off again. These are the things that you run into when you're doing this custom stuff. This engine's got to go back right there. It's a real specific spot this engine's got to drop into, unless I want to customize these bars. Okay, so I'm going to pull the engine out. Come out of there for a sec. Let's put this in. And let's keep you clamped. There's another clamp. I know I got another little alligator clamp here. Let's clamp you down. Clamp you down too. Okay. So with that, with our bar in place, that's where that needs to go. Okay. Which means our engine, our oil pan fits, just barely fits in there. But that actually helps. Believe it or not, that helps me locate the engine exactly where it needs to be. Because it sits just like that, right in the right spot. I need to relocate this guy because he's interfering. Let me get my engine centered. The engine's centered, it sits like that. It is sitting a little bit to the driver's side. I want it a little bit more centered. There we go. Okay. Now we can figure out where this needs to go. With all this finagling and trying to figure this out, all just because of an engine mount, a single engine mount. I'm going to mount that back here. Okay. I'm going to to put some glue on this, and then I'm going to have to leave it, and that's where I'm going to end it for today, once I got some glue on this. Okay, so put some glue on there. And then put it down right there. And that is going to hold my engine in. Okay. That's where my engine's going to sit. That's going to be its new home eventually. That is where it's going to sit. So I need to let that sit and dry. See? I moved it and now it's fallen off. That's not good. That's not good. There. Now, that needs to sit and stay. There we go. Stay put. Alright. There's its home. Okay, guys. That's that. So unfortunately, that's where I'm going to have to leave it for today. And we're going to let that set. And, well, that's the way it goes, right? All this custom stuff you're doing, you got to figure these things out kind of as you go. I want to thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me today. And check out the description box down below. You'll find some links. There's going to be some links to my Instagram, also links to my Twitch channel. On my Twitch channel, you can follow me on there. You'll get notified when I go live, and you could actually talk to me. Go enter the chat and talk to me live. Ask me questions. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I invite that kind of stuff. Go ahead. I love to hear it. I love to get your opinions and all that kind of stuff. Also down there you'll see links to my Instagram, where every time I finish a project like this, I take a few pictures of it, I upload the pictures to my Instagram, and so you can check those out too. All the stuff that I've done in the last 2-3 years, something like that anyway. So thanks guys again, thanks for coming out, and we're going to let this dry and we'll continue on, and we'll see you in the next one.